Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Remember the dream, cutting the cord, finally getting rid of that cable box, and paying less for just the stuff you actually wanted to watch. It was all supposed to be so simple, so much cheaper, so liberating. But if you've looked at your bank statement recently, you know the reality is, well, a whole lot more complicated. Today, we're diving headfirst into this streaming paradox. Let's just put a number on that feeling, right? A recent global study found that over a third of us think we're spending way too much on streaming. And get this, for viewers under 40, that number jumps to nearly half. So if you've ever felt that subscription fatigue, you are definitely not alone. It's a real thing. Which brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. How on earth did we get here? How did this amazing, revolutionary idea of TV freedom somehow loop all the way back around and basically recreate the exact thing we were all trying to escape? A fragmented, confusing, and, expensive new kind of cable bill. And that right there is the heart of the streaming paradox. We were promised simplicity, a better way. But what we got was a whole new kind of complexity, and it all starts with the costs you don't always see coming. The costs, they just stack up in these sneaky ways we don't always notice. First, you've got subscription bloat. I mean, the average person is paying for 3 different services now, and that total can start looking awfully familiar, a lot like an old cable bill. Then you need faster, pricier internet to handle all that 4K streaming. And my personal favorite, the binge and cancel tax. You know, the one where you sign up for just one show, totally forget to cancel, and suddenly you've paid for 3 months of a service you haven't even opened. We've all been there. And, this isn't just a problem for our wallets. The streaming market itself is showing some serious signs of strain. It feels like it's reaching a saturation point, like it's hitting a wall. Here's the number that should be keeping streaming executives up at night: 35%. That is the percentage of streamers, globally, who are planning to cancel at least one of their services in the next year. For the industry, that's not just a statistic. That's a massive churn risk that represents billions of dollars in lost revenue. So what's driving this mass exodus? Well, saving money is still the top reason. No big surprise there. But look closer. The issue is really shifting from just the price tag to the overall value. When you start combining reasons like the price is too high for what I get with content complaints like there just isn't enough to watch, you see the real problem. People are seriously questioning if the library is worth that monthly fee, especially after they've already binged the one big show they signed up for. And this whole value problem gets even bigger because it's not just about cost anymore, it's about the fierce competition for our time. For younger viewers, especially, the entertainment world is incredibly crowded. As you can see here, while streaming is still the leader, social media is now taking up over a quarter of their attention, with gaming right behind it. Streaming services aren't just fighting each other for subscribers anymore. They're fighting TikTok, YouTube, and every other app for every single minute of our day. Okay, so the market is fragmented, it's getting too expensive, and it's facing a massive attention crisis. The problems are crystal clear. But what if the solution wasn't just another new streaming service, but an entirely new way of thinking? Let's explore this really fascinating, though still hypothetical concept from our source material called Vista. So what is Vista? In a nutshell, it's a proposed unified platform. Just imagine one single subscription that gives you access to all the movies and all the TV shows from every major studio, period. No more jumping between 5 different apps, no more Googling which service is that show on. It's a pretty radical idea, and it's designed specifically to end subscription fatigue and bring back that simple convenience that made us all fall in love with streaming in the first place. Now, I know what you might be thinking. That sounds impossible, but the proposal actually includes a surprisingly practical, low-risk business model to get there. The idea is to roll it out in 3 phases. First, the major studios get together, form a joint venture to build the platform, all while their old services keep running. Then, in phase 2, new releases start going primarily to Vista, and the old platforms announce they'll be gradually phased out. And finally, Vista becomes the one single global leader focusing on new features and innovation. It's a slow, careful migration instead of a sudden, chaotic shock to the system. But beyond the business plan, Where the Vista concept gets really exciting is when you look at how it would fundamentally change the user experience. This is where everything would feel completely different. Instead of what we have now, these static, one-size-fits-all home screens where content is trapped inside different app silos, imagine the Vista vision. You'd get a customizable, widget-based home screen that you actually design, a unified link feature that could finally gather every single Star Wars movie and series in one single place. And it would bring back human taste, replacing those purely algorithmic suggestions with things like a director's pick section. How cool is that? This quote from the Vista design document really gets to the core philosophy. With a library this massive, I mean literally everything, the only way to navigate it without being totally overwhelmed is to empower the user. The goal isn't just to throw content at you, but to give you the tools to manage, to organize, and to personalize all that content yourself. So, by creating this unified, user-focused platform, the Vista model also aims to solve two of the industry's most damaging and honestly most persistent problems: content-driven churn and piracy. When it comes to piracy, the Vista concept argues that you can't win by just playing whack-a-mole with illegal sites. You win by making the legal option so overwhelmingly convenient, so much better, that piracy just becomes obsolete. If everything you could ever possibly want to watch is in one place for one reasonable price, why would anyone bother searching through sketchy, ad-filled websites? And the risk on those sketchy sites is, frankly, staggering. According to one study, if you set the cybersecurity risk of a mainstream site as your baseline, a streaming piracy site is up to 52 times more dangerous. For peer-to-peer sites, it's up to 65 times higher. Vista's argument is simple. Offer a superior, safer experience. And you don't just protect your revenue, you actually protect the user. So could this actually happen? Could an idea like Vista truly create a one-platform future? It's a really bold vision for sure, but it's one that directly takes on the core issues facing both us, the viewers, and the industry itself today. And that really leaves us with the final question. Is something like this the inevitable next step for an industry that has kind of become its own worst enemy? Or is the dream of getting these fierce corporate rivals to all work together for our benefit simply too good to be true? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining The Explainer.